back to the first things, which are personality tests and strengths and things like that. You're talking about the introvert extrovert. Sometimes we learn things about ourselves that we resonate with, but we do feel ashamed to admit it. That strength means this because of like for me, I struggled. My top strength is futurist. I'm a futurist.
Yes, you are.
And I had a hard time with that when I first discovered it because it took me back to a childhood, but I was always identified as a daydreamer.
Right.
So they would call all the kids in and I would be lost in my toys down the street, and I would be late to dinner. I would get lost. I would be in my own little world. So I got classified as daydreaming is bad because you don't show up to the party on time. And so futurist was a real thing I had to understand. Okay, well, what's the story around that? Realizing, no, actually, it's just part of who I am. I get lost in the clouds and I'm thinking out and I can live there. And so sometimes I got to pull myself down to the real world.
It's
But
not all that you are.
It's not all that I am.
It's one of our favorite ways that you move through the world because you're particularly good at it.
Yeah.
That story that you're telling about yourself is step one. It's really important to attune your ear to be able to hear that differentiation. The challenge early on in that journey is it just feels like it's one of the facts, and learning how to pull those things apart. And it's often around what makes us distinct. One of the places that we first early on in our life start to figure this stuff out or see some reflection of it is around 10, 11, 12 years old. It's when abstract thought first starts to become available to a child. Before that, the world's very concrete. And abstract thought starts to form, and you start to understand a little bit about who you are. But you're also in middle school where fitting in is the prime directive.
Yeah.
And we start to try to get rid of all of that stuff. And so you end up with too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, big nose, little nose, blonde hair, brown hair, all these different comparisons that are ways that we needle at each other. But what we want to, and so we try to get rid of all that, right? High school's not much better, but what we do there is we form cliques. So we find people like us and then we kind of group together.
Yeah.
It's a decent solution at that age. But one of the challenges is we enter adulthood with this notion, two voices. Our peers have told us that we're to something and that we should be more like, right? Our peers have told us that the thing that makes us distinct is the thing we're going to get picked on for. Our coaches, parents, pastors, educators, teachers, they are all trying to shape that thing in us. But the message we can receive often is, dude, that thing's broken in you. You're a daydreamer. I'm trying to shape it.
Yeah.
The message is that's wrong. Don't do that. That's what we often will internalize.
Yeah.
It's not what I think they're trying to say. So we get into our adult life and we've got this thing about us that is our uniqueness, our brilliance. The thing we really are gets a story attached to it that is something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Make it go away. How do I become like everybody else? Which is entirely the wrong question in an economy that is inviting you to show up as you because that's how you're going to create value. That's step one. And separating the fact and the story apart, locating that difference, just takes some attuning of your ear and noticing. It often has a shame story around it or a fear story around it that is causing you to shrink away. And it is scary to lean into that thing.